All right, we should be live streaming. Let me just double check the audio, make sure we're all good. So this live stream is specifically dedicated to those who have questions and want just straight answers. I can answer everyone, but the problem is somebody will be like, how to mix. That takes a whole course worth. So if I ever shorten my answer or refer you guys over to my courses, it's because I can't give you a 5-minute answer on how to mix. It's too broad of a question. That takes a whole, it's kind of like asking, how does the universe work? All right, so that's what we'll be doing today. I just got to wait for people to roll in. So in the meantime, I have a new plugin called Hypnos at busyworksbeats.com/Hypnos. I'll leave a link below. Hopefully I remember to do that. So I'm just going to play with some of these sounds before we get started. All right, so these sounds are made for like R&B, hip hop, the modern sound. All right, so let's pull up a pad here. Blades on beats. What's your thoughts on the longevity and how big Super Trap will be? Super Trap? Is that like Yeet stuff? Do you consider Super Trap Yeet? What up, Neville? Hayes is in the building. What up? If you mean like Super Trap, like Yeet and all that, I think musically speaking, there is a bar. Because let me show you guys kind of with that Yeet type sound. Some people call it Alien Trap. Some people call it Super Trap. So I was just making sure we're speaking about the same thing. If I load up Serum, where's Serum? S-E-R. Let me just show people who are watching the replay. Grim Break. Okay, I don't know them. That's probably why. I don't know who that is. So I'm unfamiliar with that specific, subgenre. But the main issue as far as like variations of trap is that it ultimately comes down to a rhythm. And once we start changing that rhythm, it doesn't feel like the genre. So it's very hard to escape a genre when it's solely based on a rhythm. Like boom, ka, ka, boom, ka, ka. There's only so much you could do using the same reggaeton rhythm. There's only so much we could do with trap. Boom, ka, boom, boom, ka, boom, boom. There's only so much you could do with the 3 and the 7 snare in double time. So because of that, Yeet tried to switch it up on his last album. It just sounded weird to me. It didn't sound very good at all on his last project. I think it was too experimental. It's like, so Alien Trap and Super Trap are different. Okay, so I don't know the specifics behind Super Trap. Let me explain why Yeet, that sound, has a specific limit though. And I'm not here to wish, terrible things on anybody. It's because it's based in this. And once you guys understand this, the people watching the replay, to get the Yeet melody sound, you're going to take your root note, count up 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's called your perfect fourth. Wait, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how that was a tritone. Okay, so this is the Yeet sound. How to make chords like Cochise. I don't listen to Cochise, so you got to maybe give me a genre. Can I get a shout out? Supreme Duff, what up? Okay, so the Yeet sound is really this perfect fourth, 5 semitones, and then they'll copy this note, pull it down an octave. This is really called quartal harmony. And then they'll go up a half step like this. And then they'll do like a pitch dive type of effect. I can't do it because we're not using one shots right now, but they'll pitch dive it down. Actually, I'll show you guys a plugin here. Let's use one of the plugins. I think it's, do I have it on here? I might not have it on here. The plugin's called Glitch. Yeah, I don't have it on here, darn. Okay, well, anyhow, it's a tape stop effect. I think Grossbeak has a tape stop, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Let's go to preset momentary. Let's go to, where is it at? Vinyl stop. And what I like to do on vinyl off is turn this curvature up. So they'll automate Grossbeat, and that's how they can create pitch bends on third-party stuff without using a bunch of complicated stuff. So let's do this. And the reason, we kind of get locked in a box with chordal harmony is because in jazz theory, when you harmonize with the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth, you're kind of locked because there's no tension there. Supreme Duff. Why when my kick and 808 hit, the 808 drags instead of the bass of the kick? Your 808 drags, so it keeps going on instead of the bounce. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. So Aaron asks, why when my kick and the 808 hit at the same exact time, does the 808 continue to decay instead of the bounce of the kick? So I don't know what you mean by bounce. Bounces of the kick. Are you playing multiple kicks? I'll show you in a second. They're basically trying to occupy the same space. That's basically what it comes down to. I think Yeet is like slightly touching the bass of Super Trap, but it's hard to explain. Okay. I think Super Trap isn't more upbeat. It sounds like an old school Young Money and Future spacey beats. Old school Young Money and Future spacey beats. So like Manny Fresh. No, like I see what you mean by Young Money. Early Lil Wayne days. Ta, ta, cat, ta, ta, cat, ta, ta, cat. Zufa says how to overcome the feeling of giving up because the beats are not as good as you want them to be. Read the book called Mastery by what's his name? George Leonard. Read the book Mastery by George Leonard. I think there's a study done. I learned this from Ty Lopez. He says most everybody quits after failing two things. Once they fail two things, they quit. So if you want to be above the average, you got to not be like everybody else. But read that book. It's called George Leonard, Mastery. I believe it's by George Leonard. Bounce off the kick. Why, when your 808 hits, the 808 drags instead of bounces off the kick? I'm trying to understand what you're trying to articulate. I'll show you in a second. I'll figure that out in a second. Neville says, I have that issue with kicks and bass. Sometimes it'll just cancel one of them out and I have to mess with the attack. Yeah. I'll show you guys how to stack it up. What's your favorite plugin? My favorite plugin is my own plugin at busyworksbeats.com/hypnos. Brandon says, yo, bro, I'm brand new into making beats. What would you recommend to practice at first? You got to learn the DAW. Go to busyworksbeats.com. I'm not being vague here. This is the best pathway. If you go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio, let me do it real quick while we're live. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. Once you get to this page, click where it says free courses and then click where it says FL Studio beginners course. You want this course because this course will guide you through step by step the stuff you need to know. Now from here, there are other free courses you can check out. If you want to learn drums, Drum Magic. If you want to learn how to make beats, Better Beat Maker. This one's really well done. That's probably the best 3 free courses for you to take. That will give you the great foundation you need to actually start making beats and learning music theory too. Aaron says, meaning the 808 decays fast and moves to the left speaker, kind of soda. What? You gotta make more sense of what you're trying to say. I'm not making out what you're saying. I'll show you guys how to stack the 808s, and if it's cutting each other off, I'll show you. All right, so anyhow, so the reason chordal harmony locks in is because it's just a perfect interval. There's no tension in it. Okay, so once you there's only but so many good sounding intervals for the perfect fourth when you stack them this way, and that's why that sound kind of got a little predictable. So that's why, everybody thinks they're going to break through with like some magical subgenre, but really subgenres emerge from the foundations of core genres. So that proves to us that core genres create the deviations. So when people make these deviations, it's not based on anything wide. And that's why you guys get stuck. Somebody on Reddit put like, why is dubstep going out of style? It's because it was a niche off of something bigger called EDM. People always come back to the main thing. Like the little subgenres and the trends, that stuff is just like, it dies out fast. Let me show you guys the 808 and kick thing because you keep asking here. So let's pull this up. So if you have a kick and an 808 and you're saying you want to stack them up, let's do this kick and let's do a long 808. like this. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is that frequencies are like people in a room. Low frequencies are like big people in a room. So if you have two big people trying to stand in the same exact spot in a room, they're going to knock each other over. So that is the core issue with kicks and bass. It's because they're trying to occupy the same space. I will go a little deep here, and then I'll get to the next questions here. But the core issue is that, hold on, let me pull up an EQ. Sound occupies three critical bands. Okay, you have the low critical band, which is everything below 100 hertz. You have the, I'll say, middle critical band, which is everything below 1000 hertz to 100 hertz. And then you have everything above 1000 hertz to about 10,000 hertz. These are your three critical bands. Every sound in your mix is trying to dominate one of these categories of sound. So if your kick's trying to live down here and your 808, you can only have one winner. So they have to either battle it out to try to scream for who's louder, or we blend them using soft clippers and compression, or we simply make one turn the other one down, which is probably the best case in most cases. What I'll do here with the kick is I'll send it as a right click. We're going to do side chain to this track. I thought I had that EQ on the 808. Where did I put the EQ? Now we're going to put the 808 on channel 10. Now on the EQ, we're going to go to the settings here, go to processing, right click. Hold on, I put the wrong channel. Give me a sec, yeah. It's Thanksgiving, y'all. I ate too much turkey. Right click, side chain to the track that has the 808. Oh my goodness, I did it again. Here we go. Right click, side chain to the right track. There we go. Was that the wrong track? Oh my goodness. I'm really having like Thanksgiving brain. This is crazy. Okay, find your track, right click, and add your kick as the input. Go back to the front of your device, click down here to analyze or turn on what's called show collisions. That will show you red icons as to where these sounds stack up. Okay, so you see the energy of the 808 lives in this area here from about, you know, what is that frequency? Hold on, turn this off. From about 20 to 50 hertz is where the 808 lives. So if the kick and the 808 are clashing, I need to find where the kick lives. So the kick is this little red thing in the background. You guys can't really see it, but so the kick lives somewhere around 100 hertz. That's where the body of the kick lives. So what I want to do is turn the 808 down where the body of the kick lives. So we're going to double click here, make this a dynamic point. I'm going to turn on auto mode, hit the up arrow. I'll get to the next questions in a second. We're going to pull this to about at least 3 dB. I'll do 6 so you guys can hear it. What this will do is every time the kick hits, it will turn down only that specific area of the 808. So now I can stack certain characters of my kick in the 808. I can stack the punchiness of the kick and the boominess of the 808 and blend them together as one thing. So I don't know if that's what you meant by your question, but that's how we stack kicks and 808s. The fundamental issue is that it's like two big people trying to stand in the same spot within a room. So we have to move one of those things out the way in order for something to be seen clearly. Zufas says, how long did it take you to make beats that managed to get placements from the time you started producing to the time first placements? It's really an attitude. When I started like focusing 2014 into 2015, I had to make a decision. I had to say, do I want to put all my energy into this YouTube thing? And I said, yes. Once I made that decision, then the universe started opening up opportunities. So that's how it worked for me. You have to make that decision. It's not going to happen randomly. It's not going to happen by luck. Other people aren't going to do it for you. You got to do it all yourself. You said that's what I want the 808 to do. King Darkness is here. What up? Inside the gross beat tape stop, change the curve to a diagonal for a different speed. Wario says you should change your channel member tier names to BusyWorks Beats and add extra S. That's hilarious. But yeah, I owe my channel members, I didn't have this computer for a long time, so I appreciate you guys being patient, but I owe my channel members multiple courses here. It was like as soon as I turned channel members on, my computer just didn't work. I was like, wow, as soon as I turned it on. Dubstep was lit in 2012. MZit says, is there any difference between a producer and a beat maker? How do I explain this? Yeah, just in my simple explanation, a producer, like if I have a live band and they come record in my studio and I'm like, you guys should do this, play the drums this way. I mic up, the studio room. I might do special techniques like put an amp in the hallway, record the amp in the hallway, and kind of do really unique stuff to create a sound. And I'm thinking more so how to create a sound, not just how to record a band, but how to create a specific sound for this band. Like how to make that snare really pop and really smack. That's a producer. A producer is a creative partner in the creative process. Most beat makers are not creative partners in the creative process. They send the beat, somebody raps to it, that's it. Doesn't mean they're not a producer. It just means that the difference between a producer and a beat maker is that producers don't necessarily make the beat. If I'm a recording engineer, I can produce a record because I'm telling the band what to do and I'm using these microphones and I'm mixing with these plugins and this outboard gear and I'm creating the vision for it. Whereas the band members might not individually know how to create that sound. That's what a producer is. It's shaping the total sound of the final product. A beat maker, most of the time, doesn't even shift the final sound of the final product. And I think that's why a lot of people have issues with the title producer and beat maker. But in the law, there's also a credit or a title that people get in the credits called producer. And I think they're entitled to more points. So I think that's why there's a lot of politics around beat maker versus producer in the industry. Receptacle says, what do you recommend for someone who wants to push their work to a wider audience? You got to think mass. So instead of me making this video about how to compress your snares, there's only a certain amount of people in the world that want to learn how to compress snares. If you want to go mass, you got to think who's already well known. Michael Jackson, the Beatles. I might do how the Beatles made Yellow Submarine, and then I'll show the process of compressing a snare. I might do the same exact thing, but I'm framing it differently. So now people who don't even know anything about music production can appreciate the process. Whereas if I'm teaching somebody how to compress a snare, it doesn't have the same wide mass appeal. So really sometimes it's just about reframing stuff to be a little more zoomed out. The problem with zooming out too far is that it becomes vague and not as dense in value. And that's the problem with zooming out too far to get a wider audience. That's why they say dumbing down your lyrics, because there's no density there. Daza says, what's the best alternative to Output Arcade or Splice that I can get a perpetual license for to create my own auto chops that's not Serato sample? Maybe the chat knows. I don't use those like chop plugins that have like chops per key. I'd be curious to know if there's any alternatives. I'm not familiar. I think Kontakt tried to do something. They're called leaps, I think, from Native Instruments. I think they're called leaps. It's basically that concept. You play a key, triggers a loop or a one shot or whatever. So yeah, I think look into Native Instruments' new Kontakt. They're working on something called leaps. Forgive my voice, y'all. This is post-turkey, post-Thanksgiving. My voice is already raspy already. I guess I was talking too much today. Wario says, why do you use FabFilter Pro Q3? What's the difference between Parametric EQ2? Let's put it this way. I'll show you real quick. So Parametric EQ2, you basically just turn stuff up, turn stuff down. You kind of make stuff. You could use your mouse wheel to do stuff like this. Soloing is a little difficult with this plugin. I don't even know how to do it. There's a way to do it, but I forget how to do it because it's not intuitive. And you can sidechain, but it's complicated how to set up a sidechain. You have to do all this stuff. It just isn't and you can't do mid-side information. Like I can't just target the mono signal or the left signal or the right signal. I have to target everything without doing this whole complex thing. So it just doesn't have enough features for me. FabFilter Pro Q3, I can use dynamic EQ. I can solo frequencies. I can target what's called stereo placement. So the mid-side information, the left-right signal. I could quickly do different slopes per octave. So like 24 dB per octave, 8 dB per octave. They have what else? Here, make me. They have these analyzers down here, like show collision mode, which is super unique, where it shows where the energy of a sound kind of lives. So it's little stuff like that that just makes this a pro tool. You know, what I recommend is for beginners, if you have the money for it. If not, you know, just save up over time. You'll get it eventually. But yeah, Pro Q3 compared to Parametric EQ2 is like comparing a Ferrari to a Honda. It's just not even the same thing. They're both cars, but one is clearly more like built to race. Because you're going to hear people say, oh, you could do the same thing with stock plugins. I mean, yeah, with 1,000 patchers, like eating up all the CPU. Eating up a bunch of space and stuff. So no. Oh, I forgot what we were talking about, Neville. Bria Beats is what keeps you inspired. I was told 3 things: show love, be filled with the spirit of truth, and complete my assignment. My assignment technically is to give Bibles. And I said, I either need to make $1.5 billion a year for charity to give away 100 million Bibles, or I need to figure out a creative way to give away Bibles. So I thought, okay, I want to give away Bibles, but I need to know people. So that's the first step. Second step means I have to have influence over those people in a positive way to help them. So I said, I got to get to know a lot of people. I have to have a positive influence before I even give somebody a Bible. So I realized I have to build a business. I have to get people to know me in order to create influence, in order to do my assignment. So those are the 3 things I was taught. So that's what keeps me going. Wario says, I forgot it was Thanksgiving. I don't think I've been to a single place to celebrate. You used to live in the UK and now Australia. Shout out to Australia. We watched Love Island Australia. What a great show. Is FabFilter better than Infinity EQ? I would say yeah, because I don't the Infinity stuff is cool. I just don't reach for it. Augustine says, Vasquez says, what do you recommend to really master sound? Or excuse me, let me read this slower. Augustine says, what do you recommend to really master song design, meaning the skills to know? If I use certain waveforms, maybe you mean sound design. Okay, let me read this again. What do you recommend to really master sound design, meaning the skills to know if I should use certain waveforms, plus whatever I create certain sounds-based roads? Okay, now I don't know if you mean song or sound design. There's 4 layers. When you simplify it, it makes a lot more sense. You have what's called a top line. The next layer is called a harmony section. The next layer, pardon me, hold up, I'm clicking all the wrong buttons, y'all. The next layer is a contrast section, and the 4th layer is a rhythm section. I could show you on the screen using my plugin here. With these 4 sections, the top line is your memorable melody. This is the part that everybody recalls in their mind. Something whistleable, humble. I can't speak today. The top line is a memorable melody. It could be sung, hummed, or whistled. It's the thing people pass to somebody else most of the time, is the top line. The harmony section is the glue for your track. This is, the thing that pulls everything together harmonically speaking. The contrast layer is what fills out the track and gives it that low end, usually bass, but it can also be in counter melody. It's just a contrast, a difference from the top line. And you have a rhythm section, which is your usually drums, but also rhythmic instruments. So you can combine any of those layers to make a song. Once you simplify it that way, you're not thinking about harmonics and what sounds to pick. You're thinking about what purpose does this sound serve in my entire process? And that will help your sound selection a little bit more. You just have to hear more sounds. If you want to be better at sound selection, you have to hear more sounds. If you don't know what a viola sounds like, a viola versus a violin, if you don't know what a tuba sounds like versus a trumpet, if you don't know what a sawtooth sounds like versus a square wave, you're not going to know what to pick because you don't know what it sounds like. So you just have to hear more sounds, quite literally. Bakery says, hello, I want to know what computers are better to mix music, Ryzen or Intel. I wish I had knew about computers. I don't. I'm not a master on computers, unfortunately. I think I'm using a Ryzen right now on this computer here. Aaron says, I get the justice. I get the. So let me demonstrate the layering that I just talked about, because people tend to overcomplicate it. So what I do is I build with chords first. Again, this is my plugin at busyworksbeats.com/hypnos. It's my new plugin. It has over 100 sounds for hip hop, trap, R&B. It's built for a modern sound. The first thing we're going to do is do chords plus contrast, meaning I'm going to play a harmony, like a minor chord, a major chord, suspended chord, whatever, plus the bass line. Okay, so to thicken it out. So let's add that. So I'm playing both bass and harmony here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys what I recorded. So we played two different things. We played both the harmony section. We played a minor chord here, which is D minor in this case, and then we played a suspended chord as a way to change it up over time. But I also have this lower layer, and the lower layer is called the contrast layer. So I'm going to separate this visually so that we're not confused. We have a contrast and we have the harmony. So now we know, okay, the only two areas or pockets that we need sound for is the top line and the rhythm. So this will help you guys stop overly filling your beats. Okay, so now let's add a top line. For the top line, I'm going to use my keyboard here called the Prophet 6. And we're going to add some kind of melody over top. Let me turn off my mic because it's right on the desk. It'll start getting loud. Now, when you get deeper in music theory, you'll realize that top line is really broken apart harmony. And this is why everybody tries to make melodies and learn melody tricks and hacks. They're skipping over the entire identity of a melody, which is understanding chords. And that's what I teach in my music theory essentials. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. You guys will learn more. I got to catch up with the chat. I'm like 20 questions back, so bear with me. But I see everybody here. Matthias is here. Phased is here. Augustin is here. We got Tyler Davis is here. We got Javier. We got 1999. Kevin's here. What up? Kenyatta. Wally. So shout out to you guys. I'm just kind of explaining somebody's question. What up, James? Thank you. And everybody tries to skip harmony, but that's the secret behind good melodies, understanding harmony and chords. Really, melody most of the time is a broken apart chord or some form of scale harmony. So that's the top line. Now let's add a rhythm section. Now, for the sake of this video, we're not gonna go through all these drums and do 1,000 different drums. That'll take too long. So I'll record a rhythm section, but with a synthesizer to show you guys rhythm is not always a drum. It can also be a sound. It can be tonal, it can be atonal. So I'm gonna go on my Korg this time and look for a sound we could add here. Okay, so hopefully I'm reframing the way you guys think about sounds for your beats. So now we have the rhythm section. It's just playing in a rhythmic style fashion. Usually rhythm, if you're going instrument rhythm, you usually play one note so it doesn't trigger the ear to listen to so many notes to clash with the top line. And now we combine all these sounds, and this could be a 4-layered melody, and this is what I teach. Melody is layers to it. Same with our songs and beats. Let's switch out the hypno sound here. Let's go to a different pad. So different vibes per sound here. Thank you, Chris. All right, so pad 3 was just built for this sound. We built around that sound. Long story short, those are the 4 layers for melody and song making. So when you're asking me what sounds to add, I go, what is the purpose of me picking a new sound? It has to fit in one of those buckets. And if it doesn't fit, then it's not the right sound. So that is how I think about sound more than like, what is the sound built of? But sound selection does go into knowledge of genre and all that. That's stuff you got to learn over time, unfortunately. So hopefully that answered your question. I get the justice what you said. So Aaron says, I get the justice what you said, and I actually already knew that, but revisiting the fundamentals is great. I think my computer has a virus. That's why it keeps coming out like that. Kind of forgot the context, unfortunately. Wally says a beat maker just basically makes beats for a producer. You can tell a beat maker was necessary for the record, and the beat maker is more in the creative stage, says Wally. Phase Peep says how to get a loud snare. Now, what kind of snare are you going for? What type of snare? Tell me what genre, Phase. Rick Rubin, a producer. You know, some people kind of fudge the word producer, but ultimately it's just producers are hired to make a product. They're trusted by, whoever gives them a check to make a product. Doesn't matter if they have to hire 17 trumpet players, 18 beat makers to do it. Those are the people hired to make a product. They're product managers, basically, is what a producer is. Project managers is what I meant to say. The Nayar, how do you say that? The Nayarla, I don't know how to say your name. 804. Hey, I need help with the song you're making. Okay. Join our Discord. It's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. You could hop in. We have over 104,000 people in there to help you. Kai says, can you give Gatekept tips and tricks on creating fire intros? Sure. So let's say you want to make this like cool sounding. We're going to hit Control G. We're going to render this to audio. The MIDI, I mean. We're going to cut remainder 32-bit, 512 point sync. Okay, so now we have all this. So now we have everything as audio. We are going to combine this, or actually we can keep everything separate. What we need to do is go to the tools, macros, switch all audio clips to stretch mode. What this will do is give everything a length, basically the time knob. Let's go back, tools, macros, switch all audio clips back to resample mode. Now what we can do is automate the tempo. So firstly, you want to copy where you are and then copy your target beginning tempo. So I'm trying to speak so fast that my tongue's getting tied. So let's start here at 90. We're going to right click, create an automation clip. We're going to determine how many bars we want it to do the effect, and we're going to right click and paste the value from 140. I wish FL Studio had better value systems, but it goes by percentages, which how do you know what tempo you're at based on percentage? It doesn't make any sense. What will happen is basically the beginning of the song will play slow and then it'll move up. So that's a way to create a unique intro. You can do the same thing with the tail end of your song. Let's make it longer, a longer fade out. But this only works for audio, it does not work for MIDI. So that's a cool little trick for intros and outros for you. Now, if you want to get rid of it, like if you don't want your tempo to jump around, right click and make sure you turn off delete initial value. Restore the initial value that you had. Go to your browser, go to current project. In older versions of FL, you go to initialize controls and you right click and delete the event, it's called. In the newer versions, it does it automatically, but you still have to go to your channel rack, right click, delete the tempo. The main thing is you want to right click wherever you were automating and delete the initial value. That's very important. Or else it will keep going back to 90 BPM where we had it before. So there's a gate kept tip for intros. MZ says that's why people from your community, among others, call themselves producers, even though they haven't produced anything. It's tricky. You know, I went into the definitions of a producer and a music producer, deep into the dictionary definitions. And by default, as long as we produce a product, which is music, in a studio, which could be your bedroom, technically you are a music producer. But I just meant from the perspective of people in the industry, there's like a little secret battle. And the battle is for a credit. And the reason they're battling for a credit is because the producer's entitled to more of the back end. Because again, if I gather 10 beat makers and I make, you know, the Nelly album, I'm the project manager who made it happen. It doesn't matter the guy that I hired to do it, I work for hire. So that's why they get a little more importance, because they're more managerial in putting that all together. In current days, we're trying to give the creators a little more equity, but that's still a thing. Okay, Wally says absolutely true. If you dump your lyrics down, meaning say less, no more people can remember what you say and you can access to a wider audience. Oh, dumb your lyrics down. Yo, I gotta proofread these messages because I'm trying to read your messages and it's not making sense. Kenyatta says, I'm having trouble making catchy and good melodies. Does it come with experience? It comes to those 4 layers I just talked about. Maybe if more people ask, we'll cover melodies in this live stream. But melody is way more than just like which notes are in a scale. You have to know harmony. You have to know intervallic resolution, modal interchange, adding modes over top of scales or chords, going out of key on purpose, pitch bends. There's a lot to melody. Expression is the main thing though. Most people just overlook expression. Expression is the real key. It's not really the notes, it's the way you play the notes, which you can't just draw in a DAW. And I think that's why people get confused. You said making catchy melodies is simple. You just keep it simple, use 3 notes. I mean, I'm sure there's rules for melodies, but it really is about the way you play. Like, it's hard to really articulate this, but let me just say a couple things. When I play keys on my keyboards, like a MIDI controller that has velocity sensitivity, there's something called aftertouch. Aftertouch just means I play a note, I push down on the key further. That aftertouch can trigger different things about the sound. So it's not the notes I'm playing, it's the way the sound is evolving. Let me try to demonstrate this here. So this sound here has aftertouch, so when I push hard on the keys, it triggers a cutoff filter movement. So as you can see and hear, the sound evolves based on the way I'm playing the sound. You can't draw that into a piano roll with ease. You would have to spend a lot of time trying to get that exact sound. Let me speed through a lot of these questions. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate you. Popping through, James. What up, Beats? What up, Kev? Wario says, I have a crazy idea for a game. What if you could load into multiplayer lobbies and have 10 minutes to make a beat and the other person votes for the best beat? That's a... I'll keep my... That's has happened before. It was an African TV show produced in Africa where DJs would have to make a beat in like an hour, I think. It was a competition-based show. 1999 says, have you worked with Trippie Redd before? No, our students have, though. So our students have, we train over 1 million producers around the world. So we're going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Lil Baby, said French Montana, K. Dot, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. There's a lot of other artists that I honestly keep forgetting to mention. I need to like really get in the habit of knowing the other artists, but it's a ton of other artists too. Trippie Redd is a part of that, if I didn't say Trippie Redd. Credit is not always a creative one. Think manager instead. Javier says, which software should I master to become a hip-hop beat maker? I mean, kids are on FL, but you might like MPC. It really depends on your brain. Some people love Ableton Live, but hip-hop currently, as far as like trap and all that, is FL Studio. If you're talking about boom bap hip-hop, you might want to get into the world of the MPC from Akai, because that hip hop is done by playing stuff by hand because it's velocity sensitive. It's a little bit different of a workflow than FL, where stuff is more quantized and less velocity sensitive as far as the default. So to you, Javier, it depends on what artist you're trying to sound like. Hip hop is a broad. I don't know if you mean true hip hop, which is like, or if you mean, you're like, I don't know if you mean trap hip hop or like boom bap hip hop. King Darkness says, how do I make my beats sound less generic? Because most of mine just sound like it's not professional. One is the sounds. Chances are the songs you want to make are using organic sounds. And you're probably picking sounds that are synthetic sounds. And you're wondering why you can't get it to sound professional. It's because you're simply using fake sounds, synthetic sounds. So most of us, we use Morphine plugin, we use Poison, we use Toxic, Biohazard, we use Sawyer, we use, whatever else comes with FL. But all of those things are synths. So to get real sounds, we need to use real instruments. So in Flex, they've updated it. It wasn't like this all the time. If you go to the Get tab in Flex, look for the Essential Piano, Guitars, and Strings and Winds. Let's go to Essential Pianos. We're going to look at the Steinway D. This one's really good. Actually, the Yamaha C7 is really good. Let me turn off some of my input here. Now it's not, I'll show you guys the real keyboard versus like what this sounds like. Okay, so here's their FL Studio sample version. Okay, so that is the, the built-in stock sound. The reason it sounds good is because they've sampled a real keyboard. The reason it sounds not as good as something like Keyscape or real Chord Kronos is because they haven't sampled enough velocities and enough mic positions. So the core sound itself, the way the plugin is built, is the reason why it doesn't sound authentic. Let's play a real keyboard here. Okay, so a real piano just has more depth. It has more. Yeah, my leg got caught. It has more character. It's just sampled deeper. So again, I'm trying to give you a short answer, but trying to give you hope at the same time. Like if you're trying to make Flex sound like a real keyboard, you can to a degree. It's only about 70% there, but there's another 30%, which is just getting an actual keyboard that has high sampled keyboard inside. That'll save you a lot of time. If you're on Mac, go with Logic Pro. They have really good starter sounds, stock sounds. Now it's just notoriously known for its bad stock sounds. Just how FL is. Okay, which software should I use? Okay. So Tyler says, what's a mastering tip you'd give? A mastering tip. If you're talking about mastering, most people confuse mastering with mixing because they're trying to do everything on one channel. So if you truly mean mastering, I would say focus on dynamic. A lot of us tend to forget. We're so used to clipping everything and smashing everything through the limiter that we forget to actually leave the bounce in our beat. So what I like to do now, I don't have any demo. Let me see if I can find a drum break. Just gonna add an arbitrary drum break in here. We're not trying to make a hit song. I'm just trying to demonstrate something here. So what I'll do is drag this out. Now I'm getting too particular so I can get particular about the drums. The main thing I want to focus on is let's use something like a multi-band compressor just to demonstrate this. What I'll do is I like to boost one thing. Okay, just try to follow this logic. I don't know where you are in your path, but I'm going to really speak high level, but simply is that imagine when you're through mixing your song, everything's even, everything's very like linear. Now, by the time we get to the mastering stage, we want stuff to move around most of the time. The way I like to do it is I'll think about everything as being flat across the board. I'll ask myself, which frequencies do I want to kind of boost just above the flatness to where they stand out? That's usually my kick or my snare, depends on the sound. So what I'll do is I'll find where my kick lives. So the kick lives somewhere around this zone. I'm not going to be too particular, but instead of compressing it, we're going to use expansion. And expansion, we need to set this to a positive value. Let's set it to +1. We also want the attack to be fast and the release to be pretty fast, but the release doesn't need to be super fast because then it will only go boop, like it'll jump up and then shoot back down. It won't be enough transient to really perceive dynamic. So we need to increase dynamic. The way we do it is to create difference, because if everything is flat, to create distance, we need to create separation. So what I'll do is I'll solo, for example, the kick or the snare, have it jump up just 1 dB, something very small, fast attack, fast release. And what this will do is add that little bump in the flatness. So instead of being like this, it'll be like that. Why is that important? Because again, it creates a difference between the rest of the track. Now, what most people do by mistake is they'll make the release too long. If I make the release too long, it's like this. It's flat, then it goes like up, and it takes too long to decay back down to where everything's basically just boosted at that point. There's no curvature to it. So I'm going to lower the release to about 8%. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll do the opposite for a different zone. Now, in this case, we don't need to overly compress, but I might compress this time, not expand the band just next to it. Whereas I'm boosting the band down here, I'm compressing the band over here. Again, not a hard rule. It's just going to create more contrast because now we're really going to focus in on the boosted element. Same dynamics, fast attack, fast release. So, okay, this is so subtle, but I'm going to play it with and without. Here's with it turned off. Just listen to the kick. Let's turn it on. Here's with it all. Here's with the back on. Now, I'm normally not pushing the entire track that hard. I was just trying to make it so you guys could hear it. I had to exaggerate the settings, but do that at a very micro level, and it will be a subconscious movement that people don't know what's happening, but the track will move and they don't know why. So that's a little small tip to increase dynamic range when you get to the mastering stage. It depends on, again, if you mean mastering or do you just mean mixing the mix bus, two different things. That's a small trick, very advanced, not super advanced, but not for a beginner at the same time. Blade says, I was reading your Melody Magic book and trying to combine everything, but it's hard trying to combine it all to get perfect geometry, frequency, numbers, patterns, or rhythms. Can you give a mini example? So Blade, you might be talking about Music Theory Magic, the book. So there we have to determine our intent. It all starts with intent first. Let me see how far away I am from the chat. Shout out to 11, if I'm saying that right. Lil U, Scotty B. So I'm just going in order. Forgive me for taking too long on questions. I got to be a little bit quicker. James K. We got Ghost Parallel. We got Lawrence Got It. Twankles is here. Ben Reaper. ADV Beats. What up, JP Warrant? We got a little Chopstick. It's a funny name. So Blades is talking about my Music Theory Magic course at busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic. So the shorter answer, let me just get to the root of what the book's about. The whole course, it's about understanding the brain cycles, the brain waves. You have alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Alpha, beta, gamma, and delta waves in the brain. You know, there's a specific frequency ratio, I'll say, that if you tap into it, you could tap into somebody's subconscious mind, basically planting a seed into their brain without them even knowing. This is why music is so dangerous, but if you use it the wrong way. And this taps into it's the bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. It's called the alpha state. So if you tap into, this is what binaural beats is all about. But I'm not sure your main question you're just asking me. So the way I teach it is, instead of asking which key should I be in, I'll ask which mood am I trying to trigger. If the mood is, you know, sadness and rebellion, I'm going to write in E minor or F minor, because those frequencies tap into that specific mood. And then we're going to start from there. Then I'm going to dig into, what is my intent for this track? Am I trying to blend rebelliousness with, you know, ambitiousness or outward energy? Am I trying to blend rebelliousness with introspective energy? You know, I have to decide. And this is where we get really meta, and I'm trying not to bore people. But underneath every scale is an intent. And the book and course teaches the intent beneath the scale, beneath the chords. Why do I choose the minor chord? Why do I choose the major chord? Why do I choose, you know, going from major to relative minor? What does that do? It goes from outward to introspective. What does that mean? Sun energy to moon energy. Why is that important? Because emotions move people. How do you tap into emotions? It's frequencies. Everybody has a core frequency called a fundamental frequency. If I find that fundamental frequency, I can get people to move. You ever listen to songs and like some songs hit when you're in a certain mood? Like if you just got out of breakup, certain songs hit way different. If you just got a bunch of money, certain songs hit way different. If you, I don't know, what is it? What's another thing people go through? If you are aggressive and like war ready, you know, certain songs hit you a different way. My son is going off, so bear with me, y'all. My point is understanding that you could tap into different energies per the scales, per the key, per the chords you choose, and understanding whose natural frequency aligns with that to understand the audience building as well. So I can go deeper with that. My son, go to sleep, dog. It's 10:30, dog. People who have kids understand what I'm saying. All right, I'm just gonna use the music to drown out my son trying to wake up in the background. Augustin, thank you. FaZe Beat says, do you have any tips for getting the 808s to hit right? Yeah, I'll show you my small little mixing chain real quick. We're going to start with the Spins 808 first, though. This is the most used 808. Let's hit Control L. I'm going to load up Fruity Wave Shaper first. This is going to create saturation and harmonics, they're called. We're going to move into the Fruity Soft Clipper right after that. Just follow my settings as my son is getting up already. We're going to use the Fruity Wave Shaper here. We're going to give it a little convex curvature, meaning turn this line up to make it curve like this. Go to the gear settings, turn the mix to about 50%. We're going to turn oversampling mode on 4 to 8x, either one. Crank the pre so that we're going through the Fruity Wave Shaper to crank the 808 into it. The soft clipper, I keep this threshold to the right. This makes it so that it's hard clipping mode. And now you can basically turn the 808 up to make it hit a little bit harder. Now this beat is a little loose with the timing. Now what most people don't know is in the sampler there's a secret. If you go to pre-computed effects, one, you can boost the volume right here, which most people do. They just crank this up until it distorts. It's one way to do it. Another way is the stereo delay. This will create a width to the 808. So that can also add to the 808 standing out in the beat, simply panning using that stereo delay. So that's my chain as far as making the 808 hit 99% of the time, is running it through that simple stock plug-in chain. Matthias says, you know any good free plugins? I do. Kilohertz Essentials is really good. Just look up Kilohertz. Where's it at? Kilohertz. I'll spell it in the chat actually. So it's called the Kilohertz Essentials Bundle. Kilohertz, excuse me, Essentials Bundle. And look up the Neural Amp Modeler. There's other plugins out there. I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but you can basically run your stuff through analog outboard gear and different gear using AI trained models. That sounds more complicated. Look into the plugin called Genome. That's the one I'm using because you need what's called stereo for your, your melodies, your beats. The problem, there's another one called Neural Amp Modeler. That's a free plugin, but the problem is it's only in mono, so you're not going to get really much use out of it in your DAW when it comes to mixing your melodies or your beats. But you could run your stuff through 1176 compressors, $10,000 converters, mastering converters. So just look for that type of stuff. It took me a while to kind of wrap my head around it, but it's amazing technology. Neville says, I can't wait to get a keyboard. I'm sick of clicking all. Yeah, right. I agree. Morbid says, how do you feel about all the AI mastering tools out there? I remember I was making my album back in 2018, and for time's sake, I was like, I could master this, but I just clicked the mastering assistant on Isotope because I didn't have time to be sitting there just moving knobs. So I understand. Now, if I want to be a producer and like have fun, then I'll turn the knobs. But I think that's pretty cool. There's a mastering service called Aria Mastering. I think they use AI, but I think the difference is they use AI plus analog mixing. And I think they probably use this stuff that I'm talking about, the neural amp modelers technology. I'm pretty sure they do, because there's another company called Access Analog, which is a little bit different. And you have to book time to have your song run through a bunch of analog stuff, which I believe that process. But I think other companies are using some of these AI trained neural models, to master stuff. Because how do they master it that fast? It's not going through gear. At least from my perspective. Who makes the art for your plugins? I do. I use AI like Leonardo. Leonardo AI. Lil Chopstick said, can you listen to my new album? We do that every Friday. Let me turn this down a little bit. Hold up. We do that every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We listen to you guys' music. Join our Discord is discord.gg/busyworksbeats. JP Warren says, hey bud, been watching your vids for years now. Really need help. Hold on, y'all. I gotta pause the whole live stream. Give me So I gotta wait all day to have the microphone so that there's no background sound. Goodness, man. I see why people get studios. It's impossible to record at a house with other people in it. Goodness gracious. All right. Watching your videos for years. Really need help on. JP Warrant says, hey, bud. Been watching your videos for years now. Really need help on how to transition between two different parts of a song. I think you're thinking that the one sound effect and one thing's going to transition. It really comes down to your music. Do you create tension in your chords? Do you switch up? A lot of your answers will be, a lot of your questions will be answered when you adopt this 4-layer to your melodies. There's a top line section. There's a harmony section. I'm out of breath, yo. A contrast section, and there's a rhythm section. Each one of these sections adds up over time, and you could swap out the sounds per section over time. So if you have trouble transitioning, it's because you're relying on one sound too much or one category too much to carry the entire song. And once you think of melodies and building your songs as a 4-layer process, you will understand how complex stacking sounds can actually become. Once you give sounds a purpose, most people don't give sounds a purpose. They just throw in random sounds and just throw in random stuff. So that's my short answer. Your question is very broad and very deep, and I have to give you a short answer, unfortunately. But yeah, it comes down to learning music theory, the 4 layers of melody that will guide you further. Because music without the drums should be able to guide the ear before you even hear drums. Music should tell you when we're about to run up on a turnaround section. Music should tell you when we're about to, go into a chorus by the way that you express the chords and the octaves you use, the expression on the actual instrument. So if you have trouble transitioning, it's because you're not expressing in your sounds. Most choruses have more energy. Like if you're playing the piano very soft and then you play it very hard, that would be like a chorus. You're building energy up. Okay, so when it comes to clicking in notes, you might turn up the velocity for the hook. If the plugin has an articulation that matches the velocity that you're actually playing. So JP Warren says, I just bought FL Studio a few months ago and I have so many melodies. I just really struggle coming up with a way to transition between 2 different melodies of a song. I would say if you're new, go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio because you're going to have to learn the way I teach, which is like the foundation of a song. The 4 layers, what is a chord, what's a bass line. You have to learn the kind of building blocks. ADV says, shout out to you, man. 5 years ago, started making beats by watching your tutorials. Legend. Thank you, ADV Beats. I know I'm a little bit behind in the chat. What up, Dorn? Thank you for your super chat. I'm going to read these super fast, though. $19.99 says, I have a few questions regarding mixing and producing. Can you mix your beats in FL at a pro level? What makes mixing and producing so hard or hard? And where do I begin to learn how to mix? Go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. Look for my mixing fundamentals course. I'll show you on the screen, actually. Hold up. Go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. And you can see all the courses that we have here. It's a long list. Use the code 50 for 50% off. We're doing the Black Friday sales thing that everybody else is doing. So scroll down, and then you'll find there's so many courses in here. I think we have 68 plus courses. So scroll all the way to the mixing section. You will find a course called the Mixing Fundamentals. This will teach you all the fundamental stuff about mixing, compression, EQ, like the building blocks of mixing, and it simplifies it for you so it's not overly complicated. Can you mix your beats in FL at a pro level? If you're talking about using stock plugins, no, I'm not going to lie to you and say stock plugins can give you a pro sound. You're not going to get a pro sound with stock plugins. Now in Logic Pro, you might be able to get a pro sound with stock plugins. In Pro Tools, yeah, you'll get a good sound. But FL Studio stock plugins, no, you're not. I'm not going to lie to you like everybody else. What makes mixing, producing hard? What makes mixing difficult is the application. What will happen is you'll learn a technique and then you'll apply it to every song because you're trying to learn it by doing it. But the problem is, it depends on the song when you use a technique, and until you copy this technique, that technique, then you'll start to realize, okay, you'll understand the bigger building blocks, which is if I want to widen something out, I have chorusing, I have delay, I have stereo imaging, and you'll start to think in bigger building blocks than just I'm going to use the technique of using Fruity Delay or Fruity Stereo Shaper and turning the phase to the right. Like, you're not going to be thinking as far as tactics, but more so a strategy about how to mix. But the way you get there is by learning tactics and trying to apply it to every beat you could get your hands on over and over and over again until you move to the next tactic, apply the technique. Next tactic, apply the technique until you really get it down. What is the thing actually changing? I used to be in a state as a young producer where I used to just go through presets and just click through presets. I do it to a degree now because I don't have time to be sound designing on every single synth patch, but when you get to the place where like presets is almost like a boring way to produce, then you'll know that you're starting to get the hang of stuff. And you said, where do I begin to learn how to mix? busyworksbeats.com/premium. Wario says, I don't think I realized until recently how bad the FL stock snares are. Yeah, they're terrible. Neville says, melody is where aptitude comes in. Learning it isn't as easy as having it. Augustine says, similar question, but with sound design. How do we learn to make a specific sound, knowing about the waveforms, don't know to look up tutorial. Basically, I have a sound design, I think it's on YouTube. Yeah, either go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. I have a whole sound design course. It goes through step by step by step. What's a sine wave? What's the difference between a square wave and a triangle? What's the sound of a sawtooth? What are LFOs? What are modulators? What is note on alternative? What is the mod matrix? How do I, automate filters? How do I use filters to create envelopes? What are envelopes? How do I shape a sound? How do I stack a sound? How do I make? So we go through like step by step by step at my website. I'm pretty sure I have free. I think I do. Let me just check YouTube. Let's type in YouTube BusyWorks Beats Sound Design Masterclass. I'm pretty sure I did a masterclass on YouTube for free. Yeah, here it is. So if you type in YouTube BusyWorks Beats Sound Design Masterclass, I did a couple melodic one shots, beginner to advanced. Okay, so it's about an hour and 30 from 1 year ago. I'd recommend you go watch my sound design masterclasses because it'll guide you step by step and walk you through like, what is this? Why do we use it? It goes through step by step. So again, I could sit here and go through all that process, but it'll take me an hour and a half to answer your question. Okay, Nabil says, I got a melody. I struggle with the overall soundscape, backing it up. That's where just knowing gear, it's almost like you got to be a geek. It's like, okay, if you watch movies, you need to know what lens the director is using. How did they get the shot? What's the color, structure? What's the lighting structure? What, you got to break it down to a science and just be a geek about trying to figure out what did Tyler, the creator, use? What did he use the, Roland tape echo effect? You got to get really geeky about the specific components of what makes the sound. Did they use Proteus modules? Did they use the MoFat modules on Kontakt? Like, you got to go that deep. Augustine says, and taking the opportunity to thank you. The videos in your Discord helps a lot. Thank you, Augustine. Virtual beat competition I'm in. Dang, I'm behind in the chat, I know. Twinkle says, what's up, my G? What up? Lawrence says, how can I promote my beats faster? You got to do shorts. Demonstrate your skill. That's it. Do shorts, do reels, post them every day. You should be doing 6 videos a day, every day. And it needs to be content that people want to watch, not just posting your beats. I'm talking about hot topics, making tutorials, show them before and afters. Like, what is your skill? You need to demonstrate that every single day. 6 videos a day minimum. Post per platform: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. 1 minute clips every single day. That's how you promote. Ghost Parallel says, I've been making loops for 20 years or so, but I just don't know if it's any good. How do I find out if my music is any good? Let's start a new project here. All right, so I started a new project because our Discord created a whole pack for you guys. It's completely for free. My son is gearing up again. I'm just going to go through loops on here. These are the best of our Discord. I would say, what defines a good loop is, do I feel a vibe? Like, can I categorize the sound any type of way? Or am I saying, what the F is this in my head? If I'm either saying, what the F is this? Or can I categorize it in a genre? Then I think it's the right sound. See, the whole beat is made. The groove is made. The turnaround sections are made. This is what I mean by the music guides the drums most of the time. It's already done. Hold on. Wait, hold on. Now let's add some drums real. See how the snare was really just enhancing the groove that was already there. So I didn't do anything special. The melody was there. So that's what makes a good melody is, can it move without the drums? Does it create a vibe? Can I say what kind of genre it is without the drums? For my bass, to keep it simple, I'll find the root note. Pull up my plugin real quick. I have some bass in here. Now this loop isn't like lining up right. So the quick way, oh my God. The way I'll just answer the question like through words is that I play the root note and then I'll play the perfect fifth, which is 7 semitones up from the root note, and then I'll play the root note up an octave. It's called unison. Those are the intervals I use to quickly play bass. And then you could do a sharp fifth, sharp tonic. That's my answer to you. I would show you, but it's just too much right now. Busy cooking on a turkey day? Hilarious. Have you listened to Denzel Curry's King of the Mischievous South Volume 2? No. Scotty B says, every time I make loops lately, they clip, and I understand the automation trick, but I struggle with that. The breast free compressor, I mean, if you're in FL, breast free compressor. I don't know any free good compressors that are like actually good. Can't give you an answer because I don't know any free good ones outside of the neural amp modeler that I talked about earlier. All right, we're gonna try to muscle through this. Eleven says, yo, been practicing beat making because I'm tired of beat searching on YouTube, more of a trap beats type of guy. You can't get any really good plugins. Are there any free VST plugins that offer good sounds? Trying to think. Look up Contact Player. I'll type it in the chat. Look up Contact Player. and you could download what are called Kontakt libraries. They're basically like video games for Kontakt if it was like an Xbox. And let me pull up my Kontakt real quick. Oh, do I have it on here? I forgot. I didn't install Kontakt on here. But the libraries you want to look for are called the Free Orchestra. That's a good one from... Who made the Free Orchestra? Let me look that up. The Free Orchestra Kontakt. I want to say Project Sam. Yeah, Project Sam makes something called the Free Orchestra 1 and 2. There's another one by, I want to say, Sonascore. Free Kontakt. I might be mixing this up. Yeah, it's called the Orchestra Elements. This one's really good from Sonascore. This one's probably the best. Look for free Kontakt libraries. That's my answer to you. Free Kontakt libraries. That's going to give you the best head start as far as like sounds. But plugins, aren't that many good free plugins. I'm not going to like lie to y'all and waste your time. Free plugins are not that great. Try to read your questions real fast. Give me a second here, y'all. Do I ever use Arcade? No, they approached me for some sponsored work, but I don't really use the plugin like that. You said I can't improve watching tutorials, including your video. I would say it's probably because the fundamental thing we humans deal with is thinking that we know more than we actually know. That's the true definition of arrogance. Most people think being confident is arrogant. That's not true. Hold on, yeah. Turn this up. Okay, so the problem is, Raphael, is probably you think that you are higher in skill than you actually are. Like if I sat here and quizzed you on phase, delay, reverbs, algorithms, the different types of reverbs, Nyquist theory, frequencies. Like if I really sat down and quizzed you on all this stuff, you probably wouldn't know the answers. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm just talking. But even if you did, there's a creative art skill as well. It's not all technical. And I think a lot of people think they know more than they know, including myself. And because of that, we think we know everything. Therefore, we're not going to learn a new way to actually do it, or do it in a different way, or try to understand why we're doing it. And so we just kind of stay stuck. And we just overlook tutorials because we're not understanding the actual information they're giving us, because we think we just know it all. So we're not listening to what they're saying. Oh, theta, that's the other one. Yeah, I was going off a rough memory there. Ray Morales says, I try and use different frequencies or different ways I want to affect. So like mind control, fear, things like that, I use those underlying in my beats. Is fear a frequency though? But I see what you mean. Which synths get that energy the best? What do you mean? I don't know what energy you're talking about. There's a lot of different sounds. I mean, just think brighter sounds have more harmonic content. Darker sounds don't. That's what a filter is. It gets rid of harmonic content. When you think of sounds that way, it just simplifies. James K says, is the book included in lifetime purchase? He's talking about a course called Music Theory Magic. Okay, so that's at busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic. Yeah, you can do crazy things with sounds. You can move objects. You can stop humans from walking. You can do some crazy. You can make people go crazy with sounds. The military uses it, but you know, we're using it on just an enjoyable level. It's 10:50 and he is still going off. Like, this boy will not go to sleep. You said what the filter I was using? I don't know what filter you're talking about. I don't know what you mean by filter. He said Waves is having a Black Friday sale with 3 plugins would you recommend? Essential for vocals.